Family patterns are likely to repeat from one generation to the next. Parents pass on their attachment issues to their kids, basically. And then their kids pass it on to their kids. If there's not some kind of an intervention, some kind of conscious, intentional way to free yourself from that. Differentiation of self is cornerstone. If you want to highlight that, write that down. If there's ever going to be a multiple choice test on the NCE that would say what's the cornerstone of Bowen family therapy, it would be differentiation of self. Okay, that's what it's all built on, differentiation of self. From, and I would say, and to family of origin. Differentiation isn't just separateness. Okay, it implies separateness, doesn't it? Don't you kind of think of it as just, okay, you got to learn to be separate from your family. No. To really, truly be differentiated, you not only separate from your family, but you learn to connect to them in a healthy way. A healthy way that acknowledges individual differences and yet also acknowledges the need for a family, to be there for one another and to support one another and to challenge one another and all the things we talked about when we did the functional, dysfunctional identification of all those different areas. So we'll talk a lot more about differentiation in a second. Uncontrolled anxiety is the manifestation of problems that when there's a lot of fusion and there's a lack of appropriate separateness and connectedness that causes a lot of anxiety in families. It really does. Really does. And so, if that anxiety is not managed, then it can cause family dysfunction. But Bowen would also tell you that you want to use that anxiety to help families change. Okay? So you make the anxiety more useful in what we're going to learn to do. Triangles manifest anxiety. So what that means is, if you have a mother and a father who have maybe a lot of tension between the two of them, and they're having some troubles. Let's say the mom then, who uses the child as a confidant and says to the child, man, your dad is never home, and I just feel so abandoned by him, and thank goodness you're here to talk this out with me. I so appreciate it. Your support means everything to me. Poor me. Okay? That's triangulation. That's one parent taking the anxiety and the tension and unresolved conflict with their partner and putting it on the child. It's a very unhealthy position for a child to be in. It happens all the time. One of the things I love about the end of this class, when I debrief with the class, most often this is the thing that people say they learned most for their own personal lives, is to no longer triangulate their own kids. They're like, I didn't know that's what I was doing. Now that I know that, I have stopped complaining about my spouse to my child. Okay? There's a boundary there that needs to be there. I think a lot of counselors' backgrounds have triangulation, and that's where we learn to be listeners and helpers and to try to help somebody who's struggling. It's usually a parent struggling with their partner, their spouse. So, triangles. A lot of this work is to help families identify triangles. Another way to say it is alignments, unhealthy coalitions within a family, 2 people against 1, 3 people against 1, those kinds of things. And to get people pulled out of the middle, so that they are not triangulated. They are not split in half. The therapist in this theory must be differentiated. Okay, so that's why you get to do your family of origin paper and your own genogram work, because my goal is to kind of honor this theory and say, well, let's have you do some of your own differentiation of self. So part of your paper, I want you to write a section about your own differentiation journey, how you have intentionally connected to and separated from your family, and what steps you still have to do to be able to do that, especially after discovering maybe triangles, maybe cutoffs, we'll talk about those, maybe multi-generational patterns, so that you can alter those. So, differentiation. Any questions about that? All right, differentiation. I love that balance thing, because this is so key to all systems theory. We've got to have a balance between separateness, being an individual, but also being connected.